Architects of Deception, The Concealed History of Freemasonry. Written by Yuri Lina, Sweden 2004. That the history of Indonesia is not original history because it has been bent or obscured by the Dutch. There are 3 ways to weaken and colonize a country. 1. Blur the history. 2. Destroy the historical evidence so that it cannot be proven. 3. Disconnect them from their ancestors, saying that their ancestors were stupid and primitive. The worst thing in recording the past of our ancestors is the initial count of the number of Saka in all the inscriptions that are counted starting from AD 78, so that gone all the real facts of the history of our ancestors before that year. The Leiden Library in the Netherlands is the most complete library about Indonesia in the world. 26,000 ancient manuscripts belonging to Indonesia were transported there. If it reaches 12 kilometers, Indonesia only collects 10.3 thousand, perfect it to R, blind. The Dutch first came to the archipelago in 1596 under the leadership of Cornelis de Houtman, then came again in 1598 only on 4 ships with 249 crew and 64 cannons. Before having had time to stop, the Netherlands was already involved in war with the indigenous people. On March 20, 1602, Dutch merchants founded the Verenigde Oostindische Company, VOC, a trade alliance aimed at monopolizing trade activities in Asia. In 1603 the VOC only got permission in Banten. This time the Army for Trade was formed, then on the 31st of December 1799, disbanded, because of corruption. After the VOC disbanded, the Dutch government took over control of the archipelago, which since the 1800s was known as the Dutch East Indies. The claim that Indonesia was colonized for 350 years is absurd. That is, the VOC only had an army in 1,603 years. If you add 350 years, the result will be independent in 1953. And if calculated from the Dutch East Indies, government as 1800 plus 350 years equals Indonesia will become independent in 2150 later. The Netherlands never recognized the proclamation of independence on August 17, 1945. For the Netherlands, Indonesia was only independent on December 27, 1949, when The Hague handed over the sovereignty of the Republic of the United States of Indonesia at De Dam Palace, Amsterdam. The difference in 5 years is a failed attempt. The Dutch reclaimed Indonesia, which had already proclaimed its independence. It wasn't until 2005, when the anniversary of the 60th proclamation. The Netherlands, morally, acknowledged the proclamation in an indecisive and vague manner. Filled circle the arrival of the Dutch in West Sumatra as a result of the Padri War. At that time the Dutch said they would not rule and only to trade. And there was no need to pay taxes, but plant commodities such as coffee had to be sold to them. In the 1860s the price of coffee plummeted, the Dutch crisis, and decided to withdraw belasting taxes. The natives rebelled and the Kamang War erupted. Magapo War. Many people were then hanged and shot. This happened in 1908. Filled circle the brutality of the former Captain Cum commander of the Depot Speciaal Troepen DST, or the Dutch Special Forces for the period 1946-1947. It was published that the victims of the Westerling massacre reached 40,000. Written in one of his memoirs, he claimed to have taken 463 civilians and guerrillas. Misavontuur en Indonesia, translation, challenge to terror. Filled circle Snauker Granje, a Dutch agent who pretended to convert to Islam. This was a tactic of the Dutch when overwhelmed by the great interest of the natives to go to Makkah. Therefore, to mark those who have gone on the pilgrimage, they are given the title, Haji, in front of his name to indicate that he has gone on Hajj once. Filled circle the 1,000 kilometers Anyer Panarukan Road, built by the Dutch Daendels, is untrue, aka a lie. Herman Willem Daendels, the 36th Governor-General of the Dutch East Indies, just landed in Anyer on January 5, 1808. The poultice marking the starting point for the construction of Jalan Anyer Panarukan is written, 0 km Anyer Panarukan 1806 AKL. So he didn't mark and make that path. Filled circle the name of the road on the south coast of Java is often referred to as Jalan Daendels. Only because the route passed through the Ambil area, which was then led by A.D. Daendels. 1838, or 3 decades after H.W. Daendels, the distance is only 130 kilometers, connecting the city of Bantul in Diy with Purworejo, Kebumen, and Cilacap in central Java. The South Coast Road existed long before the Dutch arrived. Filled circle Johannes Jaespertus Hans Casparus, the Dutch philologist, in 1954 wrote in his dissertation that Borobudur was built in the estimated year 824 AD. The number of years referred to is the approximate year number. It's not academic. The name, Borobudur, assuming that near the site there is a village, Bor, even though there is no village called Bor. Budor means purba. Javanese, he said, even though the Javanese language Budor means boils. The basic reliefs are not exposed. There are 160 relief panels published with the name Karmawibanga, using the interpretation of the Mahakarmawibanga manuscript, but did not fully follow the script. Burnett Kemper's 1970, 151 and 1976. On the bas-relief, which is closed by the Dutch, there are 12 words, Svarga. The language and the underlying teachings belong to the Indonesian archipelago. The words, Svarga. This is not an Arabic term. The Arabic word is Jannah. In India it is Nirvana, Nibbana. Just by looking at the Ada statue in the form of a person sitting cross-legged. This site is called Buddha. Sites where there are no statues of people sitting cross-legged are called Hindus. Prambanan Hindu, then mend it automatically Buddha, and if the sites side by side, tolerance. Research by Korn de Groot 1858 of the Muaratakas site concluded without labeling this Hindu Buddhist. Filled circle G. de Ridge van Beest Hall 1879 Me. Labeling, Moaratakos, this is Hindu. Filled circle W.P. Gronevelt, 1879-1880, does not mention the Hindu Buddhist Moaratakos site. Filled circle RDM Verbeek and E. Th. Van Delden, 1881, Me. This labeling is Hindu. Filled circle J.W. Ijzerman 1889-1893, Me. Labeling this Buddha. Filled circle N.J. Crom 1912, 1923 Me. Labeling Moaratakos, this is Hindu. Filled circle J.L. Moens in 1924 Me. Labeling Moaratakos, this Buddha. Filled circle F.D.K. Bosch 1925, 1930, 1946, Bosch Moaratakos Me. Labeling is Hindu. Filled circle F.M. Schnitger April 1935 Me. Labeling Moaratakos, this is Hindu. Filled circle E.J. Brill, 1936, called the Moaratakos site Hindu. From all the Dutch colonial research above, it seems that it is not consistent with what they labeled the site object, whether Hindu or Buddhist. When and who was the Indian missionary to the archipelago until the sites of the pre-Islamic kingdom were called Hindu Buddhist? There is no answer, because there never was, it's just labeling. Pilgrims, students from China come to the archipelago to learn, to record and copy the Dharmic original books to bring to their country. Not bringing teachings from their spread here. And Palembang is not the center of Buddhism. Fa Huan 337-422, add travel notes translated in notes Korean recension from Chinese text by James Legg. The Fa Huan building with a statue in it beside a large tree is the Mendit site. Filled circle in 399 to 414 AD. Fa Huan on his way to Svarnadvipa took notes. Follow the river Po Nai is the river Panay, Kampar, where students used to live there and make movements. Walking in a circle, circling the tope, stupa, as well as four teachers sitting in four corners, in this place the tower. Pradaksina Prasawiya Tawaf in Muaratakas. Sung Yun 518-521 AD records the existence of power which he calls Saka Kasatrapas. From the identification of the coin it is thought to have existed around 225 AD with the image, tope, or the Muaratakas stupa. In 602-664 AD, Hyan Sang recorded what he saw in Svarnadvipa. Beside it is a stupa built by the king, about 200 feet high. Near this is a sign where the Tathagata is walking to and fro Tawaf. Waning 664 AD 667 AD traveled for 3 years on the island of Java to translate a sutra about understanding life after death. In this archipelago called Svarga. Translation assisted by a Javanese expert named Jnanabhadra. Svarga is not nirvana. Filled circle Ising or Yi Jing, 671-695, ad. A traveler from China who came to the archipelago 3 times departed from Guangzhou sailing 20 days for 10 years in Sriwijaya 685-695 AD. He stayed for 6 months in Sriwijaya, 2 months in Malayu to study. Sabdavidya, or Sanskrit grammar. Pankavidya, medicine, logic, arts, crafts and the science of managing the mind. Filled circle Atisa de Pamkara Shranyana. Year 1.013 AD, he traveled to the Srivijaya kingdom, lived for 12 years to study, then returned to India, died in 1054 in Naitang, Tibet. In Indonesia in the 4th to 7th centuries AD, there is no record of Indian Hindu Buddhist missionaries bringing teachings to the archipelago. When Bhikkhu Ashin Jinarakkhita came up with the idea of holding a national, Trisuki Waisak, ceremony at Borobudur on May 22, 1953. And from now on, published, Borobudur adheres to the Mahayana sect. Also Palembang was published as the center of the Buddhist past. The Dutch have played a role in Indian, Bali, bringing Indians to Bali, caste, Bali in 1910. Because of this influence, many Balinese in 1930 went to India. Balinese intellectuals and academics conclude Bali is more perfect. Likewise the philosopher Rabindranath Tagore. Religion, in Bali. Initially named, religion of Tirtha, later became, Hindu Bali. This name was new in, paste, in 1950. And there is no recorded history of the pre-Islamic era, Hindu India, missionaries to the archipelago. Rshi Markandeya was a son of the archipelago, not from India. This is written in the verse, Wana Tattva, about Maharshi Markandeya, complete with his lineage. He created the Subak irrigation system. Are there any records of Markandeya and Subak genealogies in India? That the history of Indonesia is not original history because it has been bent or obscured by the Dutch. By Santo Saba.